I'm Rachel Horgan. Join me each episode as I sit down with a guest co-host covering the latest business stories in the Seattle area. We'll read the news so you don't have to. This is The Weekly. Okay, welcome back, everybody. These past 4 days, I was over on Bainbridge Island, and I was helping shoot a TV show. It's called, the first episode of a TV show is called a pilot. So I was helping a friend of mine do that, and two things I learned from it. It really takes an entire crew to make anything happen. I mean, even from just getting the food available for everybody, the extras, it was really incredible to watch. And the other thing was how much actors have to think about. It's not just remembering their lines. There's certain, marks that they have to hit, adjustments they have to make. Yeah, it was just really cool to see. So shout out to Andrew Taylor. He's the one that's produced some of the videos for the podcast. So I wanted to give him a shout out on that. The pilot, I'll post on my Instagram about the pilot there. The other thing is that I took an Uber and we were just chatting. He works for Boeing, and I used the knowledge I have from The Weekly, and I was like, oh, I heard they're trying to buy back Spirit Aerosystems. And he's like, oh, they are. And also, we're about to go on strike, so that's why I'm driving for Uber in case I don't have a job. So that was fun. I also learned all about his divorce and way too much personal information, but as it goes. Anyway, enough of that. Let's introduce my guest today, Fran Dunaway, the co-founder of TomBoyX and current president and board member for TomBoyX. Hi, Fran.
Hi, how are you, Rachel?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. Happy to be here.
I love it. So real quick, we met, I think the first time we met was that when the old publisher of PSPJ asked you to speak on a virtual event. And I was listening to you, and I just was really inspired by your story. So then when I was planning a conference, I asked you to be on the panel that I was moderating. And I just was so impressed by your story. So it's been, a year now?
Yeah, exactly.
A little over a year, I think, since that. So I'm glad you agreed to come do this, mostly because nothing makes you clean your house faster than a guest coming over. So thank you.
I hear you.
Okay, so a bit about you. Fran was one of the inaugural Forbes 50 over 50. She's a media executive turned fashion entrepreneur. She co-founded TomBoyX, a Seattle-based gender-neutral underwear and apparel brand in 2013 with her wife. As former CEO, she led TomBoyX to double year-over-year in growth, and they found themselves on many fastest-growing lists. Prior to this, Fran spent over 15 years in media production, so you know what I'm talking about with the TV show stuff. And she also served as the executive director for Equal Rights Washington, a nonprofit focused on LGBTQ rights. Does that sound right?
That's it. I was also on the steering committee and co-chaired the Human Rights Campaign dinner here in Seattle for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Very cool. So you know the event planning world that I'm in.
Yes.
And then is there more you want to share about TomBoyX? I mean, I personally have one of the bras, and I wore it when I went to Rome on the airplane because you don't want to wear a regular bra, and sports bras are a little too tight, so that one was perfect. But anything you want to share about kind of how that got started?
Oh, gosh. We really were looking for comfortable clothing that we felt comfortable and confident in. And so when we'd go into stores and we'd see pink on one side and blue on the other, or ruffles and floral, and then the neutral colors and more comfortable, and actually, honestly, higher quality in the menswear. So we set out to kind of change that and make it more about the sustainable fabrics, how things are made, and make your staples that could last much longer.
And is it right that it started out as a button-up T-shirt?
It was a button-up shirt, a fancy, nice shirt, like
okay.
a Robert Graham or Ben Sherman, but made for a woman's body. Okay. So it had fun details around the collars and the cuffs, and just had a hidden button so it wouldn't gape. And they were just really high quality, nice shirts.
So smart. And then why switch over to underwear?
Our customers told us that we should make the first boxer briefs for women. We didn't know no one was making boxer briefs for women.
Yeah.
Went on to Nordstrom.com and typed in boxer briefs for women, and up came a pair of Spanx.
Oh,
we were pretty sure that was not the same what they were looking for. So we set out and started making we introduced the first boxer briefs in 2 different lengths in 2014, and that kind of changed the trajectory of the business.
Wow. I listened to another one of your interviews, and you'd said that you start every day with reading a customer review. So I think you're really good at listening to what the customers want and making adjustments because of that.
Yeah. Actually, we end all of our weekly team meetings with the customer reviews, or the team now reads several of them, but we really are on the pulse. When we come up with new ideas, we first go to our customer. We poll customers on pattern ideas, on new style ideas. If we're when we expanded let's see, I guess it's been probably 3 or 4 years ago, we expanded our size offering. We used to carry extra small to 4X, and we expanded down to triple extra small to 6X. And so for that 5 and 6X customer, we brought in real customers and formed a focus group and had them help us make all of the decisions that we made.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool. Okay, we're going to find out a little bit more about your company kind of throughout the episode here. So let's get started. We have 5 articles for you today. 1, the CrowdStrike outage. We have to cover it. Number 2, LevelTen raises $65 million. Number 3, Target cuts back on LGBTQ vendors. Number 4, there's a new CEO at Providence. And number 5, Homegrown is closing some stores. Okay, so the first one, CrowdStrike. I feel like everyone heard about this, but really quick, CrowdStrike is a security software vendor that Microsoft uses. So Microsoft uses CrowdStrike. And CrowdStrike had this update that went out, and it caused everything to crash on July 19th. It affected 8.5 million users, which I thought was a lot until you realize that that's only less than 1% of all Windows machines. However, it caused a lot of problems. My thoughts on this is that, I sort of wish it would have affected my computer, so I didn't have to send my silly little emails, but it didn't. Instead, it affected all of the airlines, which is crazy. So Microsoft immediately identified CrowdStrike as the issue, because initially it was kind of being seen as a Microsoft problem. They said, hey, no, it's actually this other vendor. So Fran, do you have thoughts on this? Do you think that they were right to kind of, I guess, blame CrowdStrike and say that publicly? Have you ever had to cover for a vendor? Anything like that?
Gosh, I can't even imagine how it got through any kind of QA testing, QC testing, and why didn't they launch it in small batches before it went global?
Right.
And the mayhem that it's caused. So I can't imagine the heads that are rolling in various places. But there are some times where we have an in-house quality assurance person. We used to have one on the floor at our factory, and so we'll bring stuff in randomly off of the trucks and measure and make sure they're up to our quality. But sometimes things get missed. And so we really have a very generous return exchange policy and are apologetic. And we want to know so that we can then follow up with that factory if there are problems. But, as far as software, we wouldn't be where we are if it weren't for technology. And so when Shopify came about, that enabled a platform where we didn't have to pay $50,000 to have a website built.
Oh, wow.
And instead, we could just go online Shopify, and upload some images, and presto, we've got a merchant. And so if something like that went down, if they did a security check, I just think about what the consequences would be, which would be devastating for a lot of small businesses and larger businesses. So there's just, I think it has to boil down to that quality assurance and control and make sure that you're not putting yourself up and taking risks that are unnecessary. Yeah,
it is kind of scary. I don't know if that's the right word, kind of how dependent we are on softwares and specific ones. Like you said, Shopify is one. Microsoft is almost a monopoly. Everybody's using it. So, and it sounds like CrowdStrike is everywhere as well. And it's just kind of worrisome if one thing goes down. This kind of reminds me of when HBO sent out a marketing email and it said test in the subject line. And it was like some intern that like made a mistake. And so they thought it was kind of this horrible thing, but it actually ended up going viral and people started sharing all the mistakes they made as an intern. And it actually ended up doing really well for HBO's marketing. So sometimes a mistake like that can turn you around and do be a good thing, but not so much for CrowdStrike, I don't think.
No. Not when people are stuck at airports for days.
I know. Yeah. It's a bummer to affect the airlines. Anything else you want to say about this one?
There's another thing that is similar, I guess, which was during COVID, there was that massive pileup at the port, and we couldn't get product through. We're kind of experiencing a little bit of that now as well. But we had a holiday product that was sitting out on the water and didn't show up in time for the holidays. So it impacted our business, obviously. But it's that kind of stuff where you don't really have control over certain things that just you have to make lemonade out of lemons.
That's true. Next story is LevelTen Energy has raised $65 million in a Series D fundraising. So it's a Seattle-based renewable energy marketplace company. What I'm understanding that is a large corporation wants to pay for renewable energy. It can use LevelTen to find a project that's in search of support. It raised a lot of money last week. They have 130 employees. They want to go to 200 by next year. This company was founded in 2016. They've previously raised money in other rounds. So I bring this into the conversation because, Fran, you went through fundraising. Is it fundraising we're calling it? Okay, yeah. But for those that don't know, and also known as me, what's the difference between Series A, B, C, D, and then you've got like seed rounds? What are all those rounds about?
Just really, it's just a sequencing of how to differentiate them. A company typically raises a friends and family round, which is what it sounds like, your friends and family who believe in your idea. And then when your idea gets some traction or you get some interest in putting real money behind your idea, you go to angel investors for seed round. And then when it's an actual viable business and you're out there proving that you've got potential to grow, then you'll do an A round. And if you continue growing and doing well, then you could do a B round. And obviously the valuation of the company changes every time it brings in new investors. So it changes the cap table, the dynamics of the stock options or the shares. And so it's just as a evolving company. So, for them to be raising a Series D, that probably means that they're doing pretty well. And, they've proven that they've got more room to grow. Otherwise, they could just stick with the money they've got or self-fund. But if they're wanting to grow more quickly and have an opportunity, which they clearly have proven to someone, a lot of times those do fail. But in this case, I wish them well.
I know. I was just kind of thinking like, okay, if we're going into Series A and B and C and D and E and F, like at what point are you kind of like, shouldn't you be making your own money here? But it does sound like this one's being successful. So what rounds did you do to get started, TomBoyX?
We've only done a Series A, and we've done some convertible notes, but we did do a friends and family seed round and then Series A.
Mm-hmm. And then you were profitable.
We're now profitable, and we weren't profitable when we raised. The theory around raising or companies back 2 years ago was really about growth. Mm-hmm. Put all of your money into growth, so ignore profitability. It's hard to do both. Yeah. It's hard to grow and be profitable. If you want to be profitable, you kind of
spend money, make money kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. And then the economics changed, COVID changed, a lot of things changed, and now the markets are saying profitable is more important. So when we first raised our money, I would argue that we probably could have focused on growth another year. Yeah. Instead, we started focusing on profitability because when people write checks, they also have expectations, and they want, they want to get all up in your underwear and make sure that that they've got, that they're watching their investment. And so their request was that we get to work more on profitability and less on growth. And so that's what we've done. So we're not growing nearly as much. And we are focused on profitability, which we've gotten to. And in the end, I think that's going to serve us well because a lot of companies out there, I think there's a underwear company that was kind of the darling of the investors for a while called Parade. And we used to say, well, they can't be profitable. They're spending all that money on growth. And sure enough, they had a fire sale last year and nobody made any money. Whoa. So, you can run out of money. You can be focused on the wrong things. We're very fortunate in that we have a very healthy business beneath it all. Yeah. Not growing much, but we have a healthy business, which I'll take in this environment.
So we know that women raise, 2% of VC funds?
I think it's just less, and we've known that for years, and it hasn't changed.
So what was that like going around and raising money? I know you have a fun story about, I don't know if it's fun, but an interesting story about those conversations you had with the VC funds.
It was brutal. It was brutal. This was, I would imagine that the numbers were even less than that at the time.
Really?
There weren't very many funds focused on women. A lot of women funds are now out there, which is great. I know a lot of the people that were frustrated with the current atmosphere and environment for fundraising for women. And the truth is that women-founded companies do better, as we know that boards
do better
with more women. And so that was it was kind of a shock to me because we felt like we had a really good idea and we had traction and we were showing a lot of stuff. And I can't tell you the number of times that we went into meetings and where the guys would ask, well, what's wrong with Victoria's Secret? And so I think they've come to realize. And so that was the thing that we kind of were in that riding the zeitgeist. We were the first company that came out and we used diverse models. We had non-binary models in 2013, 2014, and we had all size inclusivity. And that was just a value that was important to me and Naomi. We didn't want to exclude people.
Yeah.
And we didn't know a knit from a woven when we started the company. So we didn't know that there were, rules and around sizing or anything or how to grade things. We were like, we don't care. Just get a,
Sometimes I think you need
nice.
just the perfect amount of ignorance when you start something, or else you never would have started it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Right? Or you'd be too in the box.
Yes.
And so I think that's awesome you guys did that. Looking back, is there anything you do differently now when you were raising the money? You said maybe focused a little bit more on growth and profitability, but anything else?
I think that I would, one thing for sure is to really know who you're going to pitch. And if they don't invest in the things that you're doing or things similar to what you're doing, you're wasting your time and theirs. And so it's really about the right fit and doing the due diligence ahead of time to make sure.
Anybody with money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, our next article is a little bit older. As I've done in the past few episodes, I try to pull an article that is just very relevant and about the guests that I have on. And in this case, it was only 2 months ago, I would say. It was an article about Target and how they were scaling back on their LGBTQ vendors. So many of you know that when you go into Target during June, you'll see their Pride collection, t-shirts, mugs, anything, you name it. They used to have over 2,000 items, the article states, and now they're at just under 100. So one quote from the article I liked, well, I guess I should say a lot of this is from backlash from the extreme right that's saying, we don't want to see this in our stores. And the comment was, the pink dollar isn't quite as strong as the Christian right dollar, which I thought was interesting because, again, opinions aside of what you believe, to me, it just makes business sense because a lot of people, thousands and millions of people are going to Pride, whether they're part of the community or not, and allies, whatever, you're buying these shirts. So as a Target leader, I'm wanting to put it out there just to get the money, like regardless of what you believe in it or not. So it was interesting to see that for some reason that wasn't the case here. So I really want to open it up to you and give you the space here to talk about how that affected you. And kind of maybe let's start with 2022 when you first started to collaborate with Target. What was that like?
That was truly a mic drop moment for Naomi and I in the founding of the company. We felt like it was done. We were mainstream. We were in every Target store in the United States. Wow. And, even my mother down in Mississippi was going into Target and bringing people and saying, this is my daughter. And so it was just really powerful. We did a bunch of commercials with the Target team who were phenomenal to work with. We flew down to LA. They had a huge production commercial crew. It was a full day shoot and the diversity of models. And when they rolled on that first ad, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And everyone was on set knew that this was a real sea change moment for all of us. Yeah. And couldn't have been more proud. The members of the Target team who were there were just beaming with pride for their company that they could be part of this and that they had been for so many years. And unfortunately, somewhere along the line, they caved to the transphobia and have hence made decisions that impact a lot of people's lives. But I think it's more harmful than that because it's not only a real blow to Naomi and I and to our customers, but also to the people that work there that really were proud of a company that was leading the charge. And so without letting us know, they pulled some product from the website. Wow. This past May. We did not know they were taking the Progress Pride stripes down. They took out some trans-adaptive underwear that we were selling quite well on their site. And so it's disappointing that they chose to give in to the hate and the fear, and that is taking a stand. And it's just the antithesis of what they've always said that they represent. So it was really disappointing. It impacted us in sales somewhat, but that's not the important part. The important part is what it did for the community, because I was so proud to think that in small town somewhere that a kid could walk in, or young teen, or could walk in and see stuff that they knew was for them.
Yeah. So how do we move forward with all of this?
Well, I think that one thing is that to be thoughtful about where you spend your dollar and making sure that it's a company that shares your values. TomBoyX is a B corporation. We got we changed to business benefit corporation. Last year, we were able to achieve benefit corporation status after being B Corp certified, and it was a pretty smooth process for us because from the beginning, we wanted our values embedded in the company, in the DNA, and we wanted that to continue on.
So I haven't heard B Corp. Is that, you said benefit corporation, but what is that, a tax benefit from because of that, or it's not a nonprofit, not a 501c3?
No, it's a corporation, and it's for example, Patagonia, Allbirds, those kinds of companies that are really focused on sustainability and also community, give back, how you treat your employees, how you what kind of factories you work with, what kind of products you're using. So it's a 300 and something page questionnaire. That you have to tick all the boxes for to get this status. And so once you're B Corp certified, you can then change. So we went from an S Corp to a benefit corp.
Got it.
So that's baked into our DNA that from forever going forward, TomBoyX is, it will be thinking about the environment and community and giving back.
Yeah, I like that. So do you have hope looking forward that maybe Target will turn around, or just wait and see?
Yeah, we have to kind of pick up and move forward, and again, spend money on companies that share your values. And so knowing that they don't share our values is something that I won't take lightly. And I do think that a lot of the corporations have a responsibility. And so expressing and standing for the things they care about is, I think, really important. And the fact that they chose to stop caring about a certain part of the LGBTQ plus community is really hurtful.
Yeah, unfortunate news there. Okay, our next story is that Providence CEO Rod Hochman is stepping down at the end of the year. He's been with Providence for about 17 years. The current COO, Eric Wexler, is going to be taking over. And Eric says that he's going to go on what's called a listening tour across 7 states just to kind of learn about how all of the hospitals are operating and what he can learn from. Rod is then going to move into a CEO emeritus role. So past CEO, and he'll probably, I imagine, sit on the board. This sounds very similar to your story, Fran, because you were the CEO. You have, since how long ago was it that you stepped down from that role?
I think, about 2 years.
2 years? Yeah. So 2 years ago, you stepped down, and your COO, you have her come into that CEO role. So let's talk about succession planning. When did you know it was time for you to step down? Or how did you know?
Yeah. I think as we were growing and really facing the challenges of in the operations side of things, and Naomi, I used to joke all the time, or not joke, actually. I used to say, honestly, that I had 2 jobs for the first 4 years. I spent most of my time raising money, and so I took very seriously my 2 jobs of not running out of money and not fucking it up. Yeah. And so
not running out of money and not fucking it up. I like that.
Yes. And then Naomi did everything else.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the COO title was hers, and the COO role, what she was doing was all encompassing. And so as we became larger and working with more and more factories, and then that was clearly an area that we needed some more expertise that had experience. And so, because we had just figured it out. So we knew that was a role. And so we found a COO. We went looking for a COO. And when we interviewed Leslie, we realized that she was really good CEO material.
Ooh, okay. So you knew when you were interviewing her.
Yes, okay. but it was more of I wasn't ready to step down, and we wanted to bring someone in to kind of help with the ops side. So we thought, well, let's bring her in and see how she does.
Yeah.
And so it became apparent pretty quickly that she could handle her way and manage.
And now, did she know that she was potentially going to be the CEO?
It's kind of a natural step.
Okay, but she didn't know in the
beginning.
Yeah.
And when talking with some other COOs, there were. It was just we wanted to continue in the vein of kind of tomboy spirit and the culture of the company. So we were always looking with a lens for a good fit across a lot of different areas of the business. So we really brought her in, and she did really well. She got along really well with the team. And so a year later, it was time. And so we did some shuffling around, kind of formatted the whole structure, or reorganized the whole company, and elevated some roles. And then our CFO became our COO/CFO, and then she stepped into the CEO role and has done a phenomenal job.
Did you consider an external hire, or was it pretty easy decision to just have her?
No, when we were doing the COO search, yes, thinking that they would transition to CEO. But no, she was just really killing it, and so it was good. And honestly, even though Naomi was no longer COO, she still had
her hand
in things through me, and so the only way that we could both completely step back was if I also did, so that we were both out of the company.
Well, that's going to be my next question for you. How is it being out of the company? I imagine it's hard not to want to jump back in and tell them what to do. I know you and I were just talking about how I went to order something online and they didn't have my size, and you're like, "Oh, well, I'll go see about that." Isn't that hard?
What happened? I thought we got everything in stock.
What is that like for you?
I'm my role. I used to have 3 hats as co-founder, and being on the board, a board member, and then CEO. So now I've only got 2 hats, and I'm good with that. My life is such that it was good timing for a number of reasons. And so I'm just there to support. My role now is to be a good board member and a good co-founder. So I want to support the leadership team and provide them help when they need it. And so they'll reach out if they need some help or want to think things through. We still participate in like the team meetings, all team meetings, and meet with the leadership every couple of weeks and have a 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. And then we also, we love still being involved in some of the merchandise design meetings, so we get to see what's coming. And
fun.
That excites us. And then we have monthly board meetings. So we still have a finger on the pulse, I'd say, but not so much in the decision making, but more of a support role. Yeah,
and it sounds like you really trust the people you have in place, so that probably makes it easier to step away and go on vacation.
Yeah. Our CFO, CEO, who's been with us for 6 years, and
wow.
Yeah,
very cool. Okay, our last story is that Homegrown is closing some stores. So Homegrown will close 10 stores, and they're leaving 2 behind, and that's going to be happening this fall. The 2 that they are keeping, one is in downtown, 999 3rd, and the other one's going to be on Mercer Island. The article cites that it's due to, quote, unsustainable model. With the rising costs of labor and food, they just couldn't make it work. It is on the heels of a employee strike. They had a 9-day strike. I believe part of what they were asking for is higher wages, which kind of all makes sense. They can't pay them the higher wages. A little background on Homegrown. It was co-founded by 2 guys, Brad and Ben, in 2009 in Fremont. They were co-CEOs until Ben left that spot in 2018. It did have higher priced items than other places, but it was focused on sustainability and locally sourced products. So sort of some similarities there with TomBoyX. But let's talk about that. Were there times in the beginning where you felt like you didn't have a sustainable model, or kind of how did you make sure that you had the sustainable model? Because I'm sure there's a lot that goes into purchasing clothing, and labor, I'm sure, is the highest cost, and the rent for I don't know, if you have a factory or warehouse you're renting, all that stuff. So what was that like to kind of create that system?
Well, we felt like we had something sustainable. We had a viable business. It was just a matter of how big we wanted it to be. And we felt like that's why we opted to go the fundraising route as opposed to a mom and mom shop, which we could have done and grown much more slowly and just a whole different business plan. And so the fact that we raised money and wanted to grow, we would hit we'd max out and we'd need to raise more money because we want to spend it on growth and marketing. And so that it was just a real treadmill of trying to have enough funding to continue to grow. And I just know at the beginning, we truly didn't know what we were doing. And we were really fortunate in that early on, when we decided to pivot away from the button-up shirts and move into underwear, we put out into the ether that we wanted someone with production experience because we didn't know anything. And this wonderful woman, Julie Nomi, walked into our lives a week later and sent us an email and said, hey, 9 months ago, I saw your stuff in a factory here, and I was so impressed with the brand and the quality of work, and it just really resonates with me. Can I come and tell you how I might be able to help? And we thought, she has no idea how much help we need. And so she came on board and really was the number 3 and made all the difference. And so she kind of ran that side of the business. She would go out and source the fabrics and the factories and bring us stuff and kind of walk us through, educate us on how it works. And that was great. And so she was able to lead the charge on making sure that we had things in stock. But it really came down to, I know Naomi and I would often have discussions about how much should we order, and is it too much, or we ran out. And so finally, when we did our seed round, when we closed our seed round, one of the first people we hired on as a contractor was a merchandise planner. And so she came in and we were like, what's a merchandise planner do? And so she said, she was looking over, she brought out our calculators and everything. And she was looking around at the shelves and she did some numbers and she said, you've got a 70% sell-through rate. And we said, oh, that sounds good. Is that good? Yeah. And she's like, well, it explains why you have empty shelves.
Yeah.
And so, we're pretty happy with an 8 to 10% sell-through rate now.
Okay.
So yeah, 70.
Oh, you were at 70, but the goal was to be lower.
Yeah,
I see.
Exactly.
I was like, this sounds great.
Yeah, that's what we thought. All right, high five. No,
Yeah.
You can make more money. Yeah, we knew we could make more money, and if we had enough inventory, and that continues to be a problem today. As you said, you went there last night and you couldn't find it. And so part of that right now is supply chain issues are here again. And, the wars that are happening and canals being closed and whatnot are having ships have to divert and go different ways. And we've also expanded our factories. We're now manufacturing in a lot of different countries, and it used to be just in one country. And so it just really adds some logistical challenges to get stuff and keep stuff in stock right now because it takes longer. What usually takes, what used to take 4 weeks is taking 6 weeks to arrive. So it's stuff like that, and just having the team. And we went through some growing pains, and in order to be viable and sustainable, we had to have a reorg and rethink that the way that we do things. And so it's a very lean team right now. It's a small team that's doing a lot, and there are just a lot of challenges that arise, but it's a really solid team that not much turnover, so we're really pleased with that.
They're not going on strike like Homegrown. So Homegrown, their solution right now is closing 10 stores and leaving 2 open. Have you ever had to, shut down parts of the company, maybe not sell a certain product? Have you had to scale back on certain things when times are tough?
We've certainly had some not as successful products that we've introduced that we've had to kind of rethink or not carry anymore. Yeah. We're always trying to innovate. We always try and listen to the customers and rethink the product offering. And then we like to have some surprise things. I'm very excited because we just hired a big milestone moment for the company as we hired our very first chief creative officer.
Oh,
and
that's exciting.
Yeah. So she, it was announced today. And so she's bringing a whole, design aesthetic as well as great experience. She was a designer for Outlier for 8 years, and is now on board. So
cool.
Really excited about the new creative stuff that will be coming up, and some of her designs are just phenomenal.
Yeah. The other thing about TomBoyX, I wanted to make sure I mentioned on this episode, if you're, I don't know, on like lesbian TikTok, you've heard of Shannon Beveridge. She's been an influencer for a long time. And TomBoyX sponsors her new podcast. I remember I listened to the first episode and was like, I know them. So if you listen to hers, if you know her, It's just kind of a fun connection. Well, Fran, this has been awesome. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with? Anything else you want to say?
I think just, again, reiterating, think about where you're spending your dollar and who you're supporting and why. And find companies that share your values, and maybe we can all make the world a better place.
I think that's a great way to end it. Well, thank you again for taking the time. I really appreciate it, Fran.
Thank you.
This has been The Weekly, with production assistance from Nick Patry. If you liked what you heard, rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We love listener feedback, so if you have any story suggestions, comments, or complaints, email us at info@theweeklyseattle.com. Make sure to check back next Sunday for the latest local business news. We'll see you next time.